Welcome to my channel, r/Reddit Junkie, where we dive deep into the wildest and most controversial Reddit stories from the infamous subreddit r/Am I the A-hole. Today, we have a long and emotional story for you. Buckle up, grab a drink, and settle in, because this one involves family rejection, a painful past, and a shocking return 12 years later. AITA for refusing to help my father get the life-saving operation he needs, even though it means he might die. I 30M cut off my entire family 12 years ago when I was kicked out at 18 for coming out as gay. My father, John, was the main one responsible. He told me I was a disgrace to the family and that I needed to get right with God, or leave. I left. I had nothing but the clothes on my back, a duffel bag, and the number of a friend who said I could crash on his couch. I slept in shelters. I worked at fast food places. I clawed my way into community college, then a scholarship, then university. I'm now a software engineer, married to an amazing man named Luis. We just bought our first home. 12 years. I didn't hear a word from them. Not when I graduated, not when I got married, not even when I was hospitalized for pneumonia during COVID. And then, out of the blue last week, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my sister, Amy 28F. She was crying, saying Dad was really sick. Liver failure. He needs a transplant or he might die. Apparently I'm a match. She begged me to talk to the hospital, to come see him. I said no. She called me heartless, said people change, that he's been going to church, that he's calmer now, that he told her throwing me out was the biggest mistake of his life, that he talks about me all the time. But I can't just forget what happened. He made me homeless. He cut me off for being who I am. And now that he's scared and dying, suddenly I matter again. My husband supports me no matter what I choose, but even he said that if I said yes, he'd be afraid it was out of guilt and not love. That hurt, but I think he's right. My friends are split. Some say I'd be doing the decent thing, the thing that proves I'm better than him. Others say screw that, he made his bed. Now my sister has taken to social media. She posted a long, emotional rant tagging me by name, saying I'm letting our father die. My aunt and cousins have started texting too. Even my old youth pastor reached out, saying forgiveness is next to godliness. I don't know. I'm angry. I'm tired. I'm confused. Am I the a-hole for refusing to save the man who threw me away? Relevant comment section. You cutting ties cleanly. NTA. He gave up the right to ask anything of you when he kicked you out. Actions have consequences. That includes dying alone when you pushed away your child for being gay. You, the moral high road. I get both sides here. No one can demand forgiveness, but sometimes showing compassion, even when it's undeserved, can set you free. You, cold-hearted or wise. This isn't just about him. It's about your trauma, your pain, and your right to say no. Donating an organ isn't a small ask. NTA 10 times over. Update 1 day later. I wasn't expecting to see her. Not after the call. Not after I hung up on her sobbing voice and the unbearable weight of 12 years of silence. But there she was, Amy, standing on my porch like a ghost from a life I'd tried to bury. And she wasn't alone. Our mother, Elaine, stood behind her. Gray hair pulled into a tight bun. Same weathered expression I remembered, as if every emotion was filtered through a decade of grief and control. She clutched her purse to her chest like a shield. Amy looked nervous, eyes darting between me and the street as if she wasn't sure she'd made the right call. Can we talk? Amy asked. Luis wasn't home. I probably wouldn't have opened the door if he were. But something in her voice, shaky but determined, made me nod and step aside. We sat in the living room. The same space where we'd celebrated buying our first home, opened wedding gifts, binge-watched trash TV on lazy Sundays. And now it felt occupied. Haunted. They didn't waste time. We owe you the truth, Amy said. About what really happened. About why Dad kicked you out. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to make it easy. Elaine took a breath, then looked down at her lap. It wasn't just John. It wasn't just his choice. My chest tightened. You remember that night, Amy said. The night you told us you were gay. I nodded. I remembered every detail. The rain. The burned lasagna Mom never took out of the oven. The silence. There's something you don't know, she said. He didn't want to kick you out. I almost laughed, but Amy pressed on. It was me. I said we had to. Because I was pregnant, and Dad said if we didn't look like a united front to the church, they'd expel us from everything. He said they'd take away his role as deacon. The housing stipend, my college fund, everything. My jaw locked. He begged me to reconsider, Amy said. He begged Mom too, but I told him I'd lose everything if people found out my brother was gay. That the church would say it was a family sickness. I threatened to tell everyone he let sin live under his roof. Elaine finally looked at me. We let you go because we were cowards. And because your sister was afraid. I couldn't breathe. Amy wiped her eyes. I've been living with that for 12 years. Dad's not perfect. He didn't fight hard enough. But he didn't just throw you away. We made him. Backstory interlude. 12 years ago. I came out because I thought I was ready. I was 18, naive, and stupidly optimistic. I thought the world would shift slightly, then carry on. But everything collapsed. That night, I stood in the kitchen shaking, holding my mother's casserole dish like a shield. I said, I need to tell you something. My dad didn't yell. He didn't scream. He just went cold, like someone flipped a switch. My mother didn't say a word. Amy left the room. I thought she was upset. Now I wonder what she was planning. That night, I slept in my car. The next morning, the locks were changed. My things were in black trash bags on the lawn. There was a sticky note on top that said, "Be safe." I always wondered who wrote it. I think I know now. Back to present. I sat in silence for a long time. I think they expected me to scream, cry, collapse. But I'd already done all that. Years ago. So now you want me to save him, I said. Because it wasn't entirely his fault. No, Elaine whispered. We came because you deserve the truth. What you do with it, that's up to you. Amy stood and handed me a letter. From Dad. He's in the hospital. He didn't know we came. They left. I didn't read the letter. Not yet. Update 2 to 2 days later. I waited until Luis got home that evening to tell him about Amy and Mom showing up. He sat in silence as I recounted the entire thing. Every word, every shift in their voices, the letter now burning a hole in the top drawer of my desk. He didn't say much, just nodded, but something felt off. He was too calm, too prepared. Later that night, while brushing our teeth, I finally asked, "Did you know they were coming?" He hesitated. Just a flicker, but it was enough. Luis. He turned off the tap and stared at his reflection. Then he said, "I've been talking to Amy. For about 4 months. I dropped my toothbrush. What? She reached out to me on Facebook. I didn't know who she was at first. She said she found my name through a friend's post about our wedding. She said she didn't want to upset you, that she just wanted to understand. To apologize. I couldn't speak. At first, I ignored her. But she kept writing. She wasn't pushing anything, not really. Just asking how you were doing. What you were like now." I took a step back, shaking my head. "Why wouldn't you tell me?" He looked ashamed. "Because you've been through enough. Because I didn't think it would go anywhere." And then, it started to sound like she really meant it. "She told me about your dad's health. About how much she regrets what happened." I sat on the edge of the bathtub. "Luis, you kept this from me. For months." He knelt down in front of me. "I know. And I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you. But maybe I just didn't want to be the reason you had to relive all of that pain." I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I felt betrayed. On the other, I understood. Maybe part of me would have done the same in his position. But that didn't make it right. "Did you tell her about my job? Our house? Anything personal?" He shook his head. "Only that you're doing well. That you're safe. I never gave her your number or our address. That visit, I had nothing to do with it." I believed him. But the damage was still there. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I was angry. But because I needed space to think. In the dark, the letter in my drawer felt heavier than ever. Maybe it was time to open it. Update 3 Final update 1 week later. I read the letter the next morning. I sat on the floor of my office, legs crossed like I used to in grade school, and opened the envelope slowly, as if it would explode. The handwriting was shaky. The words simple. John, my father, wrote about how he had spent the last 12 years thinking about me. Wondering where I was, what I looked like, whether I was happy. He wrote that he had tried to find me twice, once through my college, once through Amy, but stopped when both paths hit dead ends. He wrote about guilt, about how he let fear dictate his actions, that he allowed the expectations of his church, of his community, to outweigh his love for me. He said he hated himself for it. That kicking me out was not a moment of anger, It was a moment of surrender. And then he wrote the part that shattered me. I didn't write this to beg you for a kidney. I wrote it because I might die soon, and I need you to know that I never stopped being proud of you. I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to show it in a world that made me believe loving you openly was wrong. I cried. For the first time in years. Big, silent sobs that made my chest ache. I didn't respond to the letter. Instead, I sat down with Luis and told him we needed to talk. We went for a walk around the block. Our neighborhood was quiet, familiar. The kind of place you only leave when something deep inside you changes. I don't know if I can forgive you, I told him. He nodded. I know. You hid something from me. Something huge. And even if your heart was in the right place, it wasn't your decision to make. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Do you still love me? Of course I do, I said. But I don't know if that's enough right now. We decided to take a break. I moved into the guest room. Luis gave me space. We still made dinner together, still watched shows, but something was fractured. Something had been pulled into the light that couldn't be unseen. A few days later, I called Amy. She answered immediately. Hello. I read the letter. She was quiet. I'm not coming to the hospital, I said. But I wanted you to know I read it. Okay, she said. Her voice cracked. Thank you. A week passed. Then too. The updates stopped coming. I assumed that meant things were stable, or worse. One evening, Luis handed me a small manila folder. This came for you, addressed to both of us. From your mom. Inside was a photo album. Full of pictures I hadn't seen before. Pictures of me as a kid. As a teenager. Graduation. Summer vacations. Tucked in the back was a newer photo, one of Luis and me at our wedding. I didn't know how she got it. There was a sticky note on it. For your new chapter, wherever it may be. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything. About the boy I was. About the man I became. About how much of that boy I had to bury to survive. I loved Luis, but something had broken between us. Something we couldn't glue back together. 3 weeks after Amy and Mom visited, I told Luis I was leaving. Where will you go? I don't know yet. Somewhere new. Maybe Melbourne. Maybe even overseas. I just need a fresh start. He nodded, blinking hard. We hugged at the door. A long, tight embrace that said everything we couldn't in words. He whispered, you'll find peace. I know you will. Thanks for watching, Reddit Junkies. This story has been a rollercoaster, family betrayal, hidden truths, and the long road to healing. What do you think? Did Op make the right decision? Could this story have ended another way? If you liked this video, drop a like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. This has been r/Reddit Junkie, and we'll see you next time.